Right now, thousands of college students across the U.S. are protesting the Israel-Hamas conflict. It has led to several commencement ceremonies, cancellations, and some students have been arrested for setting up encampments on campus grounds. This actually happened right in our own backyard at the Auraria campus in Denver. These recent arrests have some questioning the legality behind student protesting. So here to explain more about these protests is our 9 News legal analyst, Whitney Traylor. Whitney, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's answer a big question that we've got a lot into the newsroom. If these protests on the different campuses are in fact legal.
Yeah, that's a great question and a great way to start it off. And there's a number of factors that go into it. So is it a public or private institution?
Right.
That actually matters. What they're doing, are they encamping? And then you have to look at the school policies as well. So there's a number of different factors, but generally public institutions, you certainly have more rights, but those factors all come into play.
Well, let's dive a little bit more into that public versus private, because we're seeing it happen on both kinds of campuses right now.
Right. So the public, you have to look at the First Amendment. So the First Amendment applies to the government actions. And so a public institution is deemed the government. So with respect to a public institution, you have more First Amendment rights, and so you have more protections. And of course, they can always come in when there's safety issues and things like that. And of course, if you're disrupting or preventing people from getting into a building, that kind of thing, that's always going to be unlawful. The encampments are probably unlawful. But public institutions have more rights than private institutions. But a lot of private institutions have adopted policies that reflect those of the public institutions saying, yes, you have a right to do this. So it also depends on the school policy.
So as far as students considering joining any of these protests or who are already part of these protests, what would you want them to know from a legal standpoint?
Well, I think they should start with knowing the goal and knowing the purpose and what they ultimately want. I think some of those folks who were protesting may not exactly know, hey, here's our end game. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. Know the school policies, because some school policies have no protest at all. They prohibit that completely. Remain peaceful, that's always important, and don't resist arrest. That's where a lot of the issues come in, is where students start to resist arrest, and then they have a confrontation with the police. And then finally, be prepared. Be prepared for the potential consequences.
Speaking of police, so the police in some instances are actually using force to break up encampments and arrest students. Has their conduct been lawful from what we've seen reported?
Yeah, great question. I think in some instances, I just read a report or a report from Ron Thomas, the DPD chief of police, and he was saying, look, they weren't doing anything unlawful, so we didn't want to go in and make arrests. So a dispersal order should be the last resort. That should be really when there's safety issues. They should only use force that's reasonably necessary. And I've seen some video where I thought it was completely unreasonable. And then there's some, of course, when people are resisting and there's a safety issue that police have to use some force that may be more reasonable and more lawful. And then, of course, if they're committing a crime, and some of the crimes that they're being charged with are things like trespass and things like that, that gives the police more of a right and more sort of leeway to take certain actions.
All right, Whitney Traylor, bring that legal context to the story. Whitney, we appreciate your insight. Thank you.